That's a terrible line to leave me with. Is that loud enough? Can everybody hear me? Sound man? Sound man? Do I have to use this? That's really? Just for the recording. Oh, wow, okay. We're fancy on 2 mics? This is a crazy operation you run here, Mr. Busey. So, has everybody seen Star Trek? I'm fucking with you. Me neither. My topic was supposed to be last month. I was supposed to come talk on food, and I bailed about 10 days out. So Creative Mornings team, thank you for being so understanding about it. I bailed for the United Way. They asked me to speak. The United Way asked me to speak. Let's think about that for 2 seconds. That's a terrible idea. A gala full of white hairs who think charity still is going door to door with your nana and dinging a bell. I'm not really cut out for that, but that's my own ignorance. Apparently they're very intelligent and a very progressive charity. So I learned some shit. But what you did get blessed with, anybody who was here last session for Alana Labau and Fresh Fruits, right? Aren't they amazing? So that's the sort of progressive fruit stuff you should be hearing about. You could hear me talk about foie, torchon, and burgers all day, but it's really not that exciting. So Mark was like, fine, if you're going to screw around with me, you're going to do space, smartass. Which was exciting for me, because my wheelhouse is usually talking about business and social enterprise and integration, the downtown east side, food, et cetera, et cetera. Space, I'm not known to talk about at all. So today we're going to do that. And I'm going to throw out a precursor as well. I've never done a slideshow before. That's why you see me nervously glancing at this. We'll see how it goes. This is my space. This is where I work and where I live. The little A there, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Google Maps. It's a cool little thing that we use. That's where we are. Can we define this area here? We have the 5 Point with Gassy Jack up where the diamond is notated. Right over here is Save On Meats. The original Bonita restaurant location. Bonita number 2. Sharks and Hammers, our retail store and our sushi spot. And all of this we did in this space in 6 years. Slightly aggressive. What that ends up being is almost 52,000 square feet in a 2.5 block radius. It's a lot of space. Why did we create these spaces? Why do we do the things that we do? I think is a really important question. It's really easy to go to these places and say, hey, the food was pretty good. I don't mind it. I'm going to give you a shitty Yelp review, but I'll tell you I like it to your face. I know who you are is the worst part. I'm an IP tracker. I'll talk to you after the show. Especially you, Baldy. Okay, so Bonita at number 1 Cordova Street, Cordova and Carroll, we opened in 2007. Does anybody know the cultural or historical significance of number 1 West Cordova? Hands. I'm not, Jonathan, really? We got drunk and talked about this a dozen times. Come on, dude. So I'm not going to take Jonathan's answer because this is probably better than mine, and he doesn't have a microphone. Number 1 West Cordova, the corner of it where Carroll and Cordova, it is the famous Boulder Hotel. And the Boulder Hotel was the original center planning point of our city, where the planners decided space would evolve from in Vancouver, knowing that we're 100 and some odd years old. We're so young, and to find a space like that to create and start our business made incredible sense to me. A lot of people plan their businesses and plot their businesses based on market research, which I'm still not really familiar with. We do things because we love the spaces, we believe in them, and we believe that there's integrity in it. We started number 1 West Cordova, and does anybody live down here for longer than 4 or 5 years? You have, yes, you have, okay. So you remember what 1 West Cordova was like on 2006, 2007. We had a tent city along the PHS buildings there at the Stanley and the Fountainhead Pub. And it was a completely different space. And it was a wonderful space. Everything that I've learned about building businesses and trying to do inclusive spaces and community started right there. And I'll tell a quick anecdote about this and then move on. Number 1 West, I was working outside, and there's a gentleman who still works for us named Rusty. You've probably seen him in the neighborhood. He has a gray handlebar mustache, usually wearing a kick-ass vintage sports jersey, not ironically. And I was doing some work on some cedar planks outside of Bonita work, and he came by and just stopped and was staring at me. Rusty looks like he's about 80, he's only about 58. And in a thick Cape Breton accent, he says, "What the fuck are you doing?" I've been working in the neighborhood at this point for about 3 weeks. I turn around and I'm like, do I know you? He's like, "No, but what do you think you're doing?" It's like, "Well, I've got this wood from inside and we're reclaiming it and we're gonna put it up." He's like, "You're not reclaiming it, give me that." He took the hammer and showed me how to start pulling the nails out gently so as not to bruise the wood. Long and the short of it is Rusty still works for us today in a certain capacity. He was the general caretaker over at Save On Meats when we had the entire building. That small anecdote defines why we do a lot of the stuff that we do in this neighborhood. The people who've been here longer than me, which is everybody almost, define it. It's their neighborhood. We call our spaces our space, but it's in their neighborhood. This is the place they've been. This is their space. It's where they're comfortable and why we have to concentrate on community inclusion. That's my soapbox thing. Now we're going to the low-hanging fruit. This is making me laugh already. So I get so boxed into my thinking because you saw that's 2 blocks and 51,000 square feet. I don't get a whole lot of time to leave the neighborhood anymore. And when I do, I remember all the stuff from my travels that Mark had spoken about with space. And all of the places that I loved that I'd been to. A friend of mine sent me over these, and then she was like, "You're going to speak about space. I think this is important." And I looked at it, and it really struck a chord with me. So what we're looking at, and for those of you hard of seeing, I can barely read it from here, is the 1900s, 1950, 2000, and 2060, and then the loss of tropical rainforest and woodland in 1700 percentage value. And this, we're up at the 32 here. So the thought of how centric we are about our neighborhoods and what we work on and what we're doing and our jobs and our day-to-day, this shit is a problem, obviously. And excuse me for repeating the obvious, but it's something that I think really we lose focus from and that we should continually keep focus on is this. That's the wrong way. This is the sort of stuff we're talking about. And the deforestation and the clear cutting that happens, we understand what goes along with that and what's going to happen to us in general. We can do all the wonderful things in the world that we want to create social enterprise and create integration and create creativity and make all these spaces that are less taxing on the planet, but unless we get to the top stuff, we're not going to be in very good shape. World population, this one's fun too, right? So AD 1,000, 2,100, and then the spike. So we're going from 1 billion to 9. And we know what every speaker in the world that you've probably ever seen has talked about, how quickly we're expanding. What we're not keeping in mind is we're talking right now about keeping a neighborhood that we're standing in this particular space, and we're talking about thousands of units. I think that our purview right now might be a little bit too tight on that one. We're thinking and talking about, and it's very topical, about the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 7 years. Well, social and city planning might be a little bit behind on this one, and I've had some pretty heated discussions with Brent Todderan about that. If we put in 2,000 units of social housing, super important, cool. What about this? What are we going to do with this? I've traveled in a lot of third world countries. This is not an exaggerated image. This is not someone going to a soccer match or a football match, if you're so inclined. This is a reality. And this is going to shortly be our reality. Maybe not ours directly, but definitely our grandkids. Transportation, similar graph you're looking at here, number of motor vehicles, and then a visual reference for that too. This sort of stuff I think we're very progressive as a city with, and using our space and pissing off a lot of people who really do like to drive. I back Gregor on a few things and some things I don't agree with him on. I think as any good politician, he is thinking forward with things like our bike lanes, and it's clever, but what we so desperately need for our space and getting from A to B is not just the SkyTrain and not just the buses. We need a public tram system, we need a subway system, we need all of these pieces, or we're fucked, quite literally. We can't get from A to B now. Powell Street closes, there's almost a riot. 2 blocks shut down, there's almost a riot. So we need to be progressive in that thinking about our space and how we use it. Global temperature increase, I feel like this is a representation. Did you intentionally turn the air conditioning off on me, MB? You saw the slide and you're like, this will work for effect. It's good, it's good. So with this, the classic image that's used is this guy. So this guy's shit out of luck. And it's a horrifying one. It evokes emotion. It is the low-hanging fruit of this presentation. Again, it's like, hey, this is the effect and the impact on extinction and what's going to happen and what we're witnessing now and what we've been very fortunate to do in our generation is interact with animals like these and species like these. And if you think as creative types and have creative minds, you tell me you haven't done something because you saw a fucking polar bear. Tell me something, you were at the zoo, you saw an animal you interacted with, something exotic, and it sparked something in your imagination. And you got to touch it, you got to feel it, you got to be around it. Stuffed, if we're lucky, in the future. We have to think about these things and take them exceptionally seriously. But not just these guys, these guys, these guys, and these guys. That is, in succession, forest fire, naturally, caused due to extreme temperature, tsunami, same thing, and tornado. The increase in all of these incidents, I thought I was just being more paranoid as I got older and paying more attention to space and global space. That's not true. I always watch the news. I'm a bit of a freak like that. Since I was a kid, I was glued to the propaganda of CNN headline news, which I still am. It's kind of like fast food to me. But this is real. It's a very, very serious thing. And habits are not changing quick enough to compete with this, to deal with this. And you think about the amount of the loss of life, it's really horrifying outside of that realm. Okay, so that's all the serious shit. So thank you for bearing with me. I just really wanted to get through it. What I'm going to do now is get a couple of you guys to participate with me. And we're going to talk more about mental space and the digestion of text in a world that we live in now. So I need 5 volunteers who think that they're pretty funny. Can I get some hands, please? You are funny as hell. Come on up. Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, man, come on up. Can I get some girls as well, please? Thank you. 2 more? Yes, come on, girl. Really? Is nobody drinking this morning? Okay, Phaedra. You guys knew it was going to be me, right? All right, so what I'm going to do is get you to look at these cards as a visual reference. Before I had a restaurant, I was a dime hustler. I used to do shell games in New York. I'm going to get you to pick one of these each, okay? And look at the reference. Look at the image. Don't show it to your friend. I'm just kidding. No, not the back, just the front. Look at that person or what that is and get an idea of what they would sound like. What would they sound like if they were to speak? Now look at this and look at that. You with me? You know what you're going to do? Okay, cool. So you can come over here and start. Don't use the punctuation. Don't use the punctuation. Completely up to you. Take the microphone.
Well, I'm going to.
Well done, dude. You're fucking hired. Okay, Phaedra.
Oh, I'm going to.
Thank God you're so hot. That was super creepy.
Skinny little pakiha, eat the meat.
Oh, that's why I don't do crowd interaction. Okay, come here.
Oh, I'm going to.
Yeah, all right. Not bad at all. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to.
All right, you can keep those cards and take your seats. You just freaked me out. Thank you very much. That was great. I wish I'd put more of that in the presentation. So, the idea with this is every single one of us on our cell phone, our email, etc. I don't know who you're talking about when you're reading something to me and pissed off. You can say, hey, this guy he just sent me this. Can you look at this for me? I don't know who you're relating to, but now I have a preconceived notion in my mind, in my mental space, that this dude's an asshole because you're upset or you're happy. This is what hypertext, this is what the world told me hypertext was going to do. This is how exciting it was going to be. It was going to be full of constructivism and networking and meaning and ideas and analysis, and it was going to change how we communicated, and it was going to be fucking awesome. This is what I think hypertext is. Sometimes you just like to write what the fuck in all caps. 'Cause you can. You feel me though? Do you understand what I'm doing with this? I have so many inane conversations about tone and text and people's space and how they act for the rest of the day until they see the next one and, oh, you didn't mean that. Thank God. You know there's autocorrect, right? And I think that this has really screwed up our space in our community, period. I use it constantly, don't get me wrong. I've got two people over here staring at me going, yeah, you do this to me every day. That's fair. But what I think is we've lost a lot of our interaction in our community in our integration. I think what we should use this for is, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Or I'll call you in 2. And we should, if I can't hear your voice, I don't know what's going on. I heard theirs and I still don't really know what's going on, but that's okay. And I think this is an important part of what we do in our own space and in our own head. This is a diner. Has anybody been here? Thank you. We need you to come. Now, is anybody else in the restaurant business in this room? Okay, you are? You definitely are. We are together. This, to any other restaurateur, would look like suicide. Not just because of where it is and what it does. Don't take that context out. Looking at it in its space and the way that it is split up. One of the biggest things that we do as businesses and retail or restaurants is figure out our square footage and how we sell, and how many bodies we can put in, how many turns we can do, and what the average check is. You can't do any of that math with this. That's empty. There's a 21,000 square foot building there that needs rent paid, but this is empty. And we wonder why the banks don't like me. We created this space at Save On Meats very specifically to engage a community, to be a conduit in between, and yes, it was a romantic notion and it continues to be, but it works most of the time, to be the Woodwards building, gets to hang out with the Gastown Hotel, and everybody is in the same space and gets to converse and gets to create and gets to feel comfortable. I have no preconceived notions that people that come into this neighborhood for the first time are intimidated, aren't intimidated. Of course they are. They can be a very intimidating space. It can be nerve-wracking, etc. So is going to school on the first day. So is going to your job on the first day. All of those things are intimidating, and the space that you create around it or is there then available for you is integral to that. These booths were built very specifically to seat 4 people, and if you've ever sat in one of them and had a business meeting, you can't hear anybody behind you. And whoever's over here is far enough away that you feel comfortable. This isn't segregation, it's not separation. It's supposed to be a space where you can engage business-wise, politically. The cops come off shift and sit in that back booth right there that you can only see the head. It was supposed to be a poker table, by the way. And engage and finish and do a shift change. All while that's happening, single elderly gentlemen who don't have anywhere to go but their 8x10 that doesn't have a bathroom will hang out and read the paper and drink coffee for 4 or 5 hours at a time and be comfortable in that space. That's what this is for. That's why it was designed like that. This is a very seriously photoshopped image of our back bar. Sexy wood. So the use of space here is also very integral in what it is. So if you look at it, when we design places, everything is intentional. Even the flaws are intentional. Isn't that a nice thing to say? You're like, oh, your bathroom's broken. Intentional flaw. Just wanted you to think about how awesome it is that you're in the free world and you can use the bathroom. Not so much. Okay, up top, all of these signs were put in as a very specific collaboration with a young artist who understood the space and what it needed to mean and how it needed to speak and how it needed to breathe through generations. Through 4 years old to 94 years old. How do we make everybody feel comfortable while still doing an interesting creative project? The use of text here and the use of imagery could be written off very quickly as, oh, this is cute diner ripoff. No, this took us 7 months to do. Dan Kleiman, exceptionally talented artist, 24 years old at the time, coming out of Emily Carr, did his thesis on disappearing Vancouver icons. Yoink. Took me probably 2 years to finally figure out what this kid looked like or get together with him. He had a show at JD's Barbershop, and that show had the Save on Pig, Mr. Mattress, et cetera, et cetera. If anybody got to see that show or purchase that work, you're a good person. Spend money on art, please. I saw the Save on Pig, and it was before we were even doing Save On. And all of the pieces came together, and Dan and I and the team worked very specifically on the concept behind all the signage. And it speaks to everyone. You see kids and families in there and like, Daddy, look, fries. Or the people who have been through diners over the last 4 or 5 decades, it speaks to them. The crisscross metal behind there as well. And then what ties all of our designs together in all of our venues, and you can pick this out now while you frequent them and spend a lot of money, is the reclaimed wood. So the wood that the bar top is made out of came from that space and stayed in that space. So did all of the pieces and the slats. This is all offcuts. All of the wood was behind the 4 panels, just like this. So these beams make up my bar, and they exist throughout this entire neighborhood. There's untapped treasure all through it. Our design is very deliberate, and we don't speak about it very often because it's kind of fun to have the mystery around it. I like going to places and sit down and go, why'd you put that ugly ass light fixture in? That's not really what I say. I'm actually much nicer to other restaurateurs. But when you go into a space and try and figure out why they designed it and what for, and you slowly discover it becomes part of you and your space. So this kid I would have had present instead of me today if I could have got him. And enjoy him with me for the next 4 minutes.
Earth is just one planet in the galaxies. You could compare that to an ant on the patio in this backyard. The ant doesn't know that there's more than the patio here. He just keeps walking. He doesn't know he's just part of of lots of worlds. And the human race is sort of like that. After they've discovered what's up there, they know they're only a little part of the huge galaxy. I think there probably are many different kinds of life forms, cells and organisms. Some may not be visible, some may not have been discovered, and some may be on places we can't go. And they all might have the same perspective as we do on this, that there might be others, and that maybe they can find them someday, but at the moment, they don't know. You never know for sure if there really is anything in the search. It's an endless quest without knowing what your quest is. I think it's realistic at the same time as it is fantasiful. Yeah, it's just very complicated because you have no proof that there's anything out there. The only proof is yourself, right? And where you are in the universe, and you can only make theories. You can never know the truth. That's one of the hardest questions there is. I would say what the meaning of your life is what you make it. What you think what you want your life to be. Nobody can decide what you will do except for you. You have control over yourself. You may not be lucky enough and the odds may be against you, but there's never a definite no that you cannot do this.
Every time goosebumps, top and bottom. That gives some hope, right? That sort of thinking is where we try to take our creative mind to when looking at anything. But more importantly, it's sort of where everything stems from. And I'm going to finish off this part with a volunteer who really likes science. And I get just one volunteer for this one. I promise I won't make you do funny accents. Come on, help me out. Yeah, man, get up here. So when I was a kid, I'm going to say I was this smart because you have no way to disprove it. I could have been the kid in the cafeteria with a fork on his cork. You don't know. But my mom and I did a science project together. And my mom was a very significant part of my life. My first restaurant is named after her, Bonita. It also features heavily here on my neck. For those of you who think that I use this for marketing purposes, it's my mom's name, and fuck you. So my dad was always away, traveling, bless him. Somebody had to keep a roof over our heads. And my mom decided we were going to build a volcano for a science fair. See, that got a real nice murmur. How many of you have built one of these? Cool, because I have no idea how it works. So if he fucks it up, come help me out. So the idea when you get told as a kid that you have to do something, it's chore. It's like, okay, we're going to have to build something for science fair. My mom's trying to make it exciting for me. She's like, we're building a volcano. I'm like, cool, a mountain without its top. Amazing. Who gives a shit? So we start building it together, and one of those things that you look back on fondly, but at the time you're like, can we get this done? And then she shows me how it works. So if all goes to plan, you're going to make this happen, and I'm going to stand way the hell over here. It'll be fine. Yeah, man, go for it. I don't know how much. Yeah. I think you could go for it again. More. There we go. Cool, man, you're hired. Okay, I painted the other side, so I want to show that off too. Woo, magma. Thank you, dude. So it wasn't this that got me so excited, but the reaction of the kids at the fair, the science fair when we did it, and winning a prize. I was like, cool. Why were they so interested? And then I became interested. Like a lot of things, when your friends like it, you like it, and your headspace changes. So my mom took me home, and we referred to the Encyclopedia of Everything, Britannica, where all knowledge used to exist before the internet. And she walked me through this, and she's like, yeah, these are what the different types of eruptions, and this is the tectonic plates, where she lost me immediately again and had to bring it back to dinosaurs. But I started to wrap my head around it, and then she started showing me images like this and explained that the world was kind of created by the baking soda thing. And I had a moment in my brain where I remember just falling absolutely deeply in love with the possibility that I knew fuck all. I knew nothing. It's like, I don't know anything. I still wake up with that feeling. I'm like, I know this, this, and this, and this, but my space is this big. I still don't know anything. What it kind of looks like when I wake up is this. Except not Jackie Chan. I guess I'm going to get you guys to finish off this exercise, and then we're going to do some Q&A stuff. But when you came in here, I got you to fill out the piece of paper, and I hope that you did fill it out before I started to talk about volcanoes and make you do weird things with Hendrix gin cards. I'm going to get you to use social media because I know you all do, and write exactly this. Afterwards, space to me is, and I even counted how many all of this was, so there's only 113 characters left for you to do it in Twitter. Or do it in Instagram, whatever you want. As long as it goes to me, I'll have a record of it. What we're going to do after that is after the Q&A and everybody talks, I want you to continue to hit me for a bit. And we're going to create a zine. We're going to print out all of this stuff together. And we're going to print out a lot of the tweets that refer to it. And I'm going to write a little bit about what I thought happened and a little bit about what I thought happened afterwards. And we're going to print out a zine for you, and you can pick it up at Save On in 2 weeks. We'll get straight back to you with this. I think what's important about these things, I get to talk a lot. As you can tell, I enjoy it. I want to keep you here all day. Is that there's some follow-up, and there's a discussion. If something struck you here today, if something opened your mind or whatever that is, or if there's something you think I missed, because there's a million things I did because it refers to everything, please hit me with those. I'm going to leave you just with one final statement here. I think because the rest of my talks are so politically fueled, I'm just going to do a little bit. And that is our space that we're in here, and the space that is the downtown east side, or that may be Strathcona, or if you live there, or the West End, it's ours to define. You have the strength and the ability to vote in and vote out whoever the fuck you want. You can get together and talk about it, do majority stuff. If you don't like the businesses that are in your neighborhood, it's the simplest thing in the world to get rid of them. Don't go. That space will then become something else. If you don't like the way the city is evolving, don't patronize the things that don't work. Don't be complacent. Don't fall in line. Shake shit up and make the city your own. Thank you.
Okay, let's do this. Who has a killer question to start us off? Right here, Antonio. Please, everybody, if you could tell Mark who you are, just so we all get a sense of everybody's names. Just first thing, just tell us who you are.
So I can hunt you down.
Hello, my name is Antonio Miliaris III, and I'm not joking. So this is a question. Mark came in and he made a statement which said that you were anti-gentrification. So what I want to ask is, what does that word mean to you? Could you define that? And why are you anti-gentrification?
Amazing. Here we go. So,
all right.
I'm
off
totally into it, by the way. I like it. I like it a lot. For clarity, Mark said that, not me. So, gentrification is a very, very simple one to define. It is to the super hostile advocacy groups, it is the rinsing of a neighborhood or the removal of one class for another. Williamsburg could be argued that piece, and people do it all the time. I think that our communities need to be inclusive in development. I don't have an active hand in that, by the way, yet. I'm working on that. But inclusive in their spaces. And what we try to do within that realm, and I will get back to the question to finish it, is create spaces that don't displace. So the 51,000 square feet that we're talking about that we rented was dormant. There's no one in any of those spaces aside from large rodents sized like beavers. True, we still try to keep them out with bats. But those spaces were dormant, and we have put in different pieces. So yes, we have a fine dining restaurant, but for fairness, the dishes start at $9, $12, $13. We also have a butcher shop restaurant that starts at $1.67 and works to service the community to create balance. I think if you come in and decide that I'm not going to work with any of this, and this neighborhood is inevitably going to change, so I'm going to be the forefather of this change and start catering specifically to one demographic, then that is the true definition. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I think this is one that you could go, every single person in the room probably has a different idea of what that is, but I don't think we should judge each other based on it. I think we should just keep fucking talking about it. What's that going to be? What's it going to look like? What's this neighborhood going to look like? The biggest problem we have is the end of discussion. When advocates stop talking to business people and politicians and advocates aren't talking, like our famed local area plan that fucking exploded, that's when we have a problem. And that's when gentrification, in its purest form, becomes a real threat, because the developers go, everybody's crazy, nobody knows what they're doing, we're buying everything. Next. Go ahead.
Thanks. Tony Seraphin. My Twitter handle is Sans Seraphin.
Everybody got that? Right, Sans Seraphin, what's up?
Quite a few people in our group were moved by the little boys speaking, and I'd love to get that video clip to remind me every day of those questions.
I'll post it to Twitter
Thank
at
you.
Sans Seraphin.
Thank you. So our question is, how do we encourage people to keep asking questions? Like that little boy.
Excellent, excellent question. By not making them feel stupid when they ask them. We have a company motto, and we don't have many of them because our businesses are kind of diverse. But one of them very much is never stop asking. Never ever stop asking. As a young busboy, waiter, wannabe bartender, then bartender, I would do things because I didn't want to ask people how to do it properly. For anybody who knows Tana Sling, feel free to get an appendix on that one. We worked together for years. It really is about open dialogue, and then also in a management position or in a position of any kind of power, never dismissing the person who asks the question, regardless of what it is. Hey, I don't know how to do the translation from teaspoon to X. Me neither, let's Google it. Not like, hey, I hired you as a fucking cook. You're a Red Seal, you don't remember this? Nothing is met well with aggression, then the questions stop and everybody stops. That was a really generic way to explain that, but just listen and answer and don't be an asshole. Cool? Right.
Mark, you pick. What do you want?
This guy, because he was closest.
This side's going to get angry.
Hello, my name is Ryan Nussbacher, and my Twitter handle is Ryan Nussers. That's just really hard to spell, but anywho. I represent this group in the front, apparently. So the question we sort of came up with, which might not have an answer, but it's just something to put out there in the air is... Just having trouble hearing. Really? Yeah. Okay. How do we encourage and protect and also develop our community? How do we make sure, well, let me put it in context. Here we are, a room of strangers, right, from all different walks of life. We've all converged in this one place right in like the center of downtown East Side, right? And as of 10 minutes ago, I didn't know anybody in my group. We all turn around, start talking, start making eye contact, you know, and then we came up with a question, right? That might answer the question right there, but the question is, how do we do more of that? How do we make sure that everybody who has a stake in Vancouver or the community can develop it similar to you?
I think that answer is almost identical to the one that I just had. To continue to develop community, continue talking. You just met these people if you actually genuinely like each other. If you don't, sorry. But if you do, keep talking. Everybody in this room obviously has shared interests, and whether you agree or disagree with each other, hopefully you get a group together that disagrees with each other, because it's really cool to get drunk and say yes to each other, but it doesn't really do shit. Keep talking and keep figuring out ideas, and some of the things that we do are met with huge opposition, and some of them are wrong. I fuck up all the time, and I'm going to keep doing it, because there is answers within the discussions that I have with people, and one person will be like, this is a great idea, let's try it out. What's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is we get raked over the coals by every major media and picketed and possibly torched, but let's do it anyway. But no, without being funny about it, just keep talking, man. Keep talking, engaging, organizing things like this. And can we give a big round of applause to the Creative Mornings people for putting this together? Fuck yeah. These sorts of things are what we need to engage in. We need to make time for it. We need to be like, you know what, this 2 hours of my morning, I can go do that some other time. And that's, you know, something is going to come out of this. Is that cool? All right, 1, 2. I'm going to do this one first, and then I want to do this gentleman just here.
So my name's Cookie. My Twitter handle is Cookies Enabled. How do we stop seeing this population in this area as a charity case and as less than or weaker than, and create a space where we can actually foster all the strength that they've developed through their hardships that they've gone through and the power that they have to keep continuing and fighting every single day, because they've experienced a lot more than I think probably all of us in this room put together, and that needs to be showcased, and we need to have a place that we can showcase all of their individual talents and creativity that they foster.
So before you sit down, don't even think about it. Take the microphone back. Would you like to tell everybody what you do, who you are, not just your Twitter handle, and how we know each other?
Yeah, so I work at Insight, the supervised injection site for IV drug users, just up the street there. I also work at a couple of the other sister projects here. I know Mark because of Can I name him?
Absolutely. He'd be
Okay,
happy for you.
Football Mike. Football Mike and I have known each other for a while, as Mark and him have as well. He came to me at a time at Insight where he was probably at one of his lowest of lows. And Mark stepped up, and he had a community of friends that also helped him step up because he was actually out of country when Football Mike needed some help. And I stepped up as well. And we made it happen. We said, there isn't a way to, this guy needs help, and there's help out there, and we're going to make that happen. So we connected Football Mike to the help that he needs, and now Football Mike is out there cleaning the streets, keeping it real for us again, and that's largely thanks to Mark. So.
Largely thanks to you, so stop that immediately. This is what's right with our community right there. That's what's right. That's how this shit works. Everybody would be mad. You know what Cookie and my people, et cetera, had to do? They had to inject Mike with heroin to keep him alive. He's alive. He's babysitting his grandson. A lot of people would say that that's a problem. I don't think so. I think it's a solution. I think that the work that Insight does and PHS do largely and the Cookie does is admirable as hell. You and I can talk about that later.
Is this thing on? Oh.
You got it, man.
My name's Tom Froze, Twitter handle Tom Froze. First of all, I love Save on Meats. I go there sometimes and always enjoy it.
Thank you.
So we were just wondering more about your presentation. At the beginning, you had sort of this global focus, kind of pointed out some of the challenges we're facing, and then later on, of course, you spoke about you and what you're doing locally and a bit of your ideas and ideology. And we were just wondering if maybe you could speak a little bit more about how those things connect to you. And one idea we had was that, like, the little boy was talking about the ant and the brick, and he didn't know, like, he didn't see more than just where he was, and perhaps there's something you were trying to illustrate there.
I'm going to dig a question out of there, I swear to God. But the analogy in the little boy and all of this stuff referring to my own infancy, without coming straight out and say it, this is how I go through my day-to-day life. I have to keep referring back to that kid with the ant because shit is so insanely stressful at points. And I'm not on some woe is me shit, my life is awesome. But that you have to continually say, I'm going to be all right, and this is what happened, and this is how I learned about this. This is how I opened my mind to these things. And watch things like that and have discussions. Getting to have discussions with kids and the people that Cookie's referring to on these streets, when you are put to a level that's there, or you don't have that yet, we're sort of here. We sit at that mayonnaise comfortable, like, I'm an idol, and then every once in a while I'll do this or maybe do this. But that conversation and that conversation are where I base most of my everything off of. Because I think that that lives in all of us still every day, right? Wake up and want to have that joy and not want to know that the world's fucked. But more importantly, how we figure it out, like this kid, or like the person who's seen hell quite literally. And they have the answers in my mind. I don't think we in the center do, but we can be the conduit. Oh yeah, let's do this dude here.
Hi Mark, my name is Yash. Twitter is _it's Yash. We've talked a lot about physical space, but physical space can be really messed up if there's no mental space. So where do you go for your mental space, and how do we encourage people to focus on mental space more to be able to do better with physical space?
I might not be the poster boy for this one, but you asked the question, so I'm going to do it anyway. I let myself get to the level of exhaustion to really sort of see clarity. And when I was interviewed for this, I spoke about it briefly. When you get to a certain level of exhaustion, you really can have peace. You can be quiet. We all do suffer from a certain level of mental illness, and I also drink. So when things get too hectic, I will drink bourbon and calm down and then pass out. And then wake up and start all over again. No, but both those things are true, by the way, and I'm trying to get better at it. I don't know. I don't know where that peace of mind is, and I don't know where the answers are, and I don't know what the solution is, and it pisses me off constantly. So when I'm attacked by advocates, I'm like, you're probably right. Let me figure out why you're not. or figure out how we work together, or regardless of if you would rather see me spontaneously combust, how do I change that? And how do we work together? So I don't know, dude, I guess is really my answer. Just in the back here.
I think we need to, maybe one more question after this one.
Okay, brother.
Hi, Mark. My name's Jorge Amigo. I might ask you the most polemic question of the night.
Just before you do that, isn't it incredible that everybody that I picked to do the accents actually has a fucking accent? Do it, dude.
You talk about spaces of inclusion and about helping the neighborhood and about living here in a meaningful way and understanding how the dynamics of the neighborhood happen. But I think that in a way, your restaurants are spaces of exclusion. And I mean this respectfully, I like your restaurants, I go there, but when you talk about them and us, because you use that terminology when you describe the people of the downtown east side, and I have problems with that, but when you talk about that, I've never seen a person from the downtown east side be able to afford Bonita or the Diamond, or for example, right now, if you wanted this to be very inclusive for your particular presentation, I think it would have been very interesting to open that door and have that dialogue with the people that are right outside that block.
Sure, so allow me, that's great. Absolutely, great points. And we don't know each other. So those places are not places of exclusion, they're places that they cannot access per se. So how do we solve that thing? Do I just open $1.67 restaurants? Because none of them would stay open. You employ and you work with services. So we work with United We Can really closely. We work with Recycling Alternative really closely. We work with Jobs West Developmental Disability really closely. And we allow people access to employment and training and food. I don't disagree with you on a side note. You're absolutely right. There is not my people that hang out at Save On and work with me. They don't go to the Diamond. They can't afford it. But they can't afford some of the other things we do, and we provide a massive amount of opportunity for people who live down here to come back in, work, train, have a respectful environment, and then move forward. But you're right. I can't have it both ways, and again, that's one of the things that keeps me up.
Just for some clarity, on behalf of Creative Mornings, I want to say that one of the reasons that we do these events here in the Dodson, which is a very unusual venue in downtown Eastside, I think you'll agree. Above us is a functioning SRO with a bunch of food programs, training programs, reintegration programs. There's no us and them. These people are invited to this event every month. Seldom do they participate, one thing to note. Second thing I wanted to say is I've personally witnessed 2 people walking off the street today. We've given them a sandwich, and out the door they've gone. The sandwiches, by the way, were made by Save On Meats, just so you know. So we are trying to do that. This as an example of an inclusive situation isn't comfortable for them as much as those aren't accessible to them. So there's more to it than black and white as well. Okay, who was our last question? Is there somebody on this side?
We'll do one last question.
Can we do one on this side to end the morning?
Absolutely, and I want to thank you for saying all that, by the way, because that was really fucking important. It's a really intelligent point, and it needs to be discussed. So thank you.
Who do we have over here?
Okay, who's got a really hard one that I can't answer? Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Going back
Let's
to the
go.
side. This side sucks.
Am I going to be able to smile at the end of it, or is it? Okay, we'll see.
Thanks. Hi, my name's Stephanie, and my Twitter thing is Stephanie Colton. So I'm originally from Toronto. I've only been here for a couple months, but one of the first things that struck me was sort of this proliferation of one sort of enterprise with multiple sort of nodes in one area. And it struck me on that map how you have in a 2.5 block radius quite a number of operations. And you see it with the Donnelly Group and the Heather restaurant groups, and it's not something that I've seen in other cities that I've lived. And so I'm wondering, if a strong community comes from diversity and multiple viewpoints, does having all your businesses concentrated in one sort of central area inhibit or, on the other side, get in the way of having a diverse neighborhood, or does it just allow you to execute your ideological theme in an area that you feel needs that spark or growth or inspiration?
I'm going to stop because that's 3 questions. I'm going to try and rapid fire answer all of them. If I opened 10 shoe stores, absolutely. Absolutely it would. I think what we do, all of them are very different. We offer a craft beer live music venue because live music in the city is a problem. We don't go for the low-hanging fruit with that and play top 40 and have bottle service DJs. We support local breweries, and we do that. We do Save On to do inclusive programs and also feed people and train people. We do Bonita because I like good food, and I'm allowed to open a nice restaurant if I want, even though it makes no money. The Diamond's a cocktail bar, and we train people how to be the next level of bartender, et cetera, there as well. We have a sushi restaurant that works with Organic Ocean and is sustainable and traditionally Japanese. So I think there's diversity in that. And I know what you're saying as far as divestment. We're not holding all the spaces. It should be said that there's also, for as many places as Sean and I have, there's that many times too that are all independent operators, which is amazing that we've lasted this long in this neighborhood as independent operators to have none of the big chains come and swoop in. And that was very particular. The larger spaces that would appeal to a chain restaurant or a chain bar, we try to lock up and make sure that that's not the case. So don't. Yeah, that's what I got for that. And I know you probably have 100 more questions for me. Email community@saveonmeats.ca. I'll buy you coffee. We'll hang out. You can ask me whatever the fuck you want. It's good. Thank you for listening to me.